citizens of the small city of Loveland, Colorado, went to the polls to vote on a measure that, if approved, would have imposed a 2-year moratorium on fracking within city limits. Unfortunately, the measure failed. When all the votes were counted, opponents of the fracking moratorium prevailed by about 1,000 votes. Now that the dust is settled, though, questions are being raised about just how fair Loveland's referendum really was. Pro-fracking groups outspent anti-fracking groups by about 100 to 1. And at the same time, they also jostled with city officials to move up the date of the referendum so that they could count on the support of conservative voters. Against these kinds of odds, the fact that the moratorium came within 1,000 votes of passing isn't just admirable, it's amazing. I mentioned what happened in Loveland. Fill in the details for us.
I mean, what we saw was a huge infusion of oil and gas money that were being funneled into 2 or 3 different front groups. And the 2 primary companies involved were Anadarko Petroleum and Noble Energy. Both of these companies happen to own hundreds of thousands of acres that entitle them to leasing rights in this particular area of the state. So they had a huge vested interest in making sure that the residents did not impose this 2-year moratorium. Now, there's 5 other communities in Colorado that have either a moratorium or a ban in place, and there's a number of other states and municipalities across the country that have been enacting these types of moratoriums. And I don't think that this fight is over. I think that what you're seeing is a huge petition drive to try and get statewide petitions on the ballot in November in Colorado that would try and restrict aspects of fracking to put drilling sites at least 2,000 feet away from homes. The current rules allow them to be as close as 500 feet, as well as adapt an environment bill of rights. So even though the pro-environmental forces lost in Colorado this week, I think the larger fight is still yet to be won.
Tyson, excuse me, Cole, 100 to 1 spending, outspending, and yet they only won by 1,000 votes. That's spitting distance.
Right.
What's the significance of that?
No, I mean, I think a lot of the outside spending, or a lot of the spending here, is indicative of the fact that the gas industry is getting a little nervous here. I think when the shale boom started kicking off, people didn't really know what was going on. People had to educate themselves about the practice, and I think you've seen a shift in public opinion. There was a Pew Research poll that came out this year that showed that 49% of people are opposed fracking, 44% in favor. That was an 11-point turnaround from just several months before that.
Whoa.
The other interesting part about that is there was more opposition in that same poll that was found in the West, which is, as the fossil fuel industry likes to do, they paint this as an issue that is something that bougie environmentalists in New York City care about. Mark Ruffalo, Yoko Ono. But if you actually look at public opinion, some of the most pronounced opposition comes from these frontline communities. So in Colorado, in Texas right now, just in Denton, Texas, which is about 45-minute drive from Dallas, in the heart of the Barnett Shale, there's a push right now to get fracking banned. So I think, in many respects, the industry is getting a little nervous here. They're seeing this groundswell of opposition, and they realize that it's going to take a lot to push this grassroots opposition back.
Yeah.